Welcome back, Breakaway Wealth. I'm your host, Jim Oliver, and with me today, I've got a great guest, Slade Johnston. Slade, welcome, bud. That was easy for me to say, huh?
Thanks for having me on. Excited to chat for a little bit today.
Absolutely. I'm excited for you to be on. You're doing something unique, something that we haven't had anybody else on the show that's doing this, and it's really innovative. Before we get into that, tell the audience a little bit about you, your background, all that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Butler, Alabama, small little town. Went to the University of Alabama for undergrad, and actually started in pre-pharmacy because that's where Mom said the money was at. And quickly after a few classes in biology and chemistry for majors, I realized that was not for me, and switched over to business school, and ultimately ended up staying to do the MBA program at Alabama, and had a lot of just different internships with some major companies, including Walmart. And anyways, just ultimately went full time for myself with my own startup. And now I guess we're going on about 5 years now of just pursuing the dream and the startup hustle.
So I like that. So the name of the podcast is Breakaway Wealth, and we try to encourage people not to stay part of the herd. But you found out that you didn't want to be part of the herd while you were in school. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I've seen people do that, but that's definitely the exception, not the rule, right? Normally, you would come out of that environment, maybe get a job with Walmart for a few years or somebody like that, and then go, gosh, I don't like working for somebody else. But so tell me about your company and how you started it.
Yeah, and I agree. I think, you mentioned real quick on the breaking away there in school, like that's something that I did recognize. I knew that while in school that I just had all these ambitions of different ideas that I wanted to pursue and products and just things that were new and different. And though working for a company like, working corporately at Walmart would have gave me some financial freedom, so say, it wouldn't have gave me the time to pursue this, and that was a tough decision ultimately, but glad I did it, and still got a great relationship with those guys and everything. But yeah, so we've got the main company that I'm full-time with is Trips for Trade, which is a website for swapping trips, so swapping outdoor experiences. This is primarily focused around outdoorsmen with like hunting and fishing, but it also includes vacation properties, sports tickets, any kind of adventure. So you can swap hunting for fishing, beach condo for lake house, just a way to go on new trips and save thousands of dollars on those trips by just trading what you've already got access to. And so ultimately, I got a really neat story kind of how that all got started. But, started that in school and slowly grew it. It was a lot of learning because had no experience here. Or, wasn't like my family was big business people that helped out there. It was learning from the ground up. And yeah, it just kind of grew into today. We have trips in all 50 states and 12 different countries, and about anywhere you want to go, we've got something cool to do.
Wow. So how do people, how do they find these trips and find these things to swap?
Yeah, so it's a website, just a web application right now. We haven't done the mobile app or anything yet. Just online. You can go on there. You can filter based on category, whether that's hunting, fishing, beach, lake, whatever it may be. And then you can see the trips. You can see the pictures, what it entails, kind of like Airbnb from that perspective. And then you can talk to the person and say, all right, are you willing to make a trade? If yes, then you go there for a week or weekend or however long, and then at a later date, they come to your place. And yeah, both of you have a great experience.
Tell everybody the website.
It's tripsfortrade.com, and that's the number 4 there. Trips for Trade.
Awesome. Tripsfortrade.com. Well, so did you come up with that when was that what your thesis was written on, or?
So actually just being a huge outdoorsman, my passion is outdoors and hunting specifically. When I was in probably about middle school, my grandfather, he was well known for being a big turkey hunter. So for those that aren't hunters, just kind of bear with me here, but you can kind of see the passion behind the story. But he was a big turkey hunter, and for turkey hunting, there's something called the Grand Slam, which is harvesting the 4 subspecies of turkeys in the U.S. And it's kind of just a big accomplishment for avid hunters. And he had one hunt that he was ready to go on. I really wanted to go on that trip with him. He said, no, once you get to college, we'll start yours. Well, flash forward, he finished his Grand Slam. I got to college. Well, my freshman year of college, he passed away, and we weren't ever able to go on any out-of-state trips. And that was my best friend, my hunting buddy. You know, I was in his pocket every chance I could get. So that was the toughest thing I'd been through. And my dad was like, you know, why don't you and I kind of do it in memory of him? So started looking at some hunting outfitters to go on these trips, and realized this was going to be like a $15,000 deal for us to go on these 3 other trips, and just didn't make sense for us at the time. And I couldn't afford it, and I didn't want to ask my dad to pay for it. And so anyways, I was like, but you know what, why not swap a trip on our property? We've been super blessed. My grandparents have, and parents too, but my grandparents specifically have put every excess dollar they had into land, into improving the habitat on the land. And so ultimately, we ended up swapping a hunt at our farm for a hunt at a guy's farm in Colorado. Had an incredible time. That guy's now a super close friend of mine, and we trade every year. And that led to a little bit more of proof of concept. Like, we could be onto something here. I'm going through business school at the time, so doing the due diligence there, realized that there wasn't anybody that had built something credible in the outdoor industry. And there wasn't any, and what really set us apart, there wasn't anybody that had combined multiple different industries, such as the vacation and the hunting. Now, there's a huge vacation industry for home swaps, but they're just segmented to just vacation trips. And so that, along with, you know, a whole process of finding developers and trying to get it off the ground, and starting small, getting additional proof of concept, we ended up pitching it in business competitions. I think the University of Alabama we've won 3 of their competitions. That's just under $100,000 in funding and non-dilutive funding. And we've raised seed capital, and we just, you know, really put everything into it. So we're just continuing to try to grow it.
You know, that's awesome. I love that. I love the, you know, part of the story with your grandfather, and kind of, you know, I mean, and that's normally there's something that happens, right, that kind of triggers action. And people always say action cures fear, right? That's what Dr. David Schwartz, he wrote that in the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. And I always would tell my kids that as they were growing up, is action cures fear. So if you're afraid of something, do it. But then when you lose something and you have that adversity, right? It also, adversity is sometimes creates fear. And the only way to get over the adversity and the fear is action. And what a great way to honor your grandfather and the relationship that you guys had by building this business that obviously he would have wanted to be a part of and a participant in, and would have enhanced his life and his outdoors activities. That's really cool. I commend you on that. So and you know, it's also cool. One of the things about the way that we operate at Create Tailwind, and talking to people all over the country every day, and we're not limited by geographic borders, is I love the fact that, you know, being a kid from Alabama, met this kid or these guys from Colorado, and now are good friends, because Colorado and Alabama, I go to Alabama at least once a year. Nelson Nash was who started Infinite Banking Concept. It's from Birmingham, and he has a think tank every year, and I've been fortunate enough to speak at it a number of times. And so we go there in February every year. But I lived in Colorado for 20 years, and it's different, right? I mean, it's a completely different. I would think the outdoors activities are different, you know, and I mean, just as far as your surroundings and things. And then I lived in South Dakota for 12 years, and I grew up in Los Angeles, so I didn't grow up a hunter or an outdoorsman. I do a little fishing, but that's about the extent of it, and probably emphasis on little. But in South Dakota, as you know, pheasant season is huge, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things South Dakota is known for. So I have a lot of friends that hunt, and you know, they've almost got me out there a couple of times, and I live in Florida now, so I can tell you I'm not going up there in November, but or probably not schlepping through the field in November. But now Alabama in November, I'm in.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's awesome.
So that's really cool. And you know, I love every business and especially every successful business has a story. If I said, Slade, what has helped your business grow? What are the 1, 2, or 3 things that if somebody's sitting out there and they think they have an idea, but what helped your business take off and succeed?
I would say, relationships is just a crucial element there. I've been, fortunately at a young age, just kind of realized the importance of that, of relationships in general, and kind of put a big emphasis on that and been intentional with relationships that, ultimately just being the person that you want people to be to you and helping people where you can without necessarily having your hand out, seeing what's in it for you. I think there's been a ton of times that just being that person growing up, whereas now running the business, having to reach back out to some people and be like, hey man, got this idea, I want to run by you. Like, could use some advice or some direction. Like that itself has paid dividends. But aside from that, like being even with the, the aspect of growing a business, like the networking piece still kind of plays into the relationships. You've got to be very intentional about your relationships and who you're connecting with, and whether that's trying to build a team, whether that's, for me in school, it was the professors that I really built relationships with, whereas when we started to raise capital, they were able to make introductions or, needed some direction with the business. What's your thoughts here? Like the influence and the mentorship there was crucial. And yeah, I think a lot of what we're seeing now and like how we got the ball rolling was with people that I personally knew, kind of that had assets that they could trade. And if you hadn't been a good person to those people, they don't want to help you out. And so, I think there is a key aspect there of just being super intentional about your relationships and just being a good person there. I think that helps.
All great advice, Slade. What I always think about, have you read the book, The Go-Giver?
I haven't read that one yet.
Okay. Do yourself a favor, look that up. Our good friend of ours has been on the show. Bob Berg wrote it. One of the best books that I've ever read. And it's definitely, you have a heart as a go-giver. So it'll totally make sense to you, but there's 5 stratospheric laws of success in the go-giver. And you hit a number of them and worded it a little bit differently, but the relationships and helping other people get what they want, that's the number one thing. And, it says that in the Bible. Zig Ziglar, all these, personal development people have said that for years. It goes all the way back to the Bible, but the helping other people is the key. And build, when you're doing that, you're building those relationships. Like you said, be intentional, build the relationship, help that person get what they want. And there's that law of reciprocity that even though you're not expecting anything in return, they want to give something in return. It's funny because occasionally I'll have somebody call me that is like an infinite banking practitioner, and they ask me how we do things that create tailwind. And one of the things that I tell them, they say, well, how, what do you referrals? And I said, oh, we don't ask anybody for referrals. And they say, what do you mean you don't ask anybody? Well, we don't have to. All of our clients give us referrals, but we never ever ask them to give us referrals. And they're just dumbfounded by that. But yeah, the key is that our clients are getting more educated, and we're helping them get information to grow. And as they're growing, they're so excited about it. They want us to talk to other people so that those people can grow. It's not like they're referring them to us. It's almost like the opposite. And they're saying, hey, you need to go talk to these people. They're going to help you, and so I think that's really cool because, just you think of the different adventures. And one of the things that I see with outdoorsmen and people that go on these types of trips is it's an adventure, right? You don't know what you're going to see. And especially where you might not have an opportunity, like you said, how would you have an opportunity to go to Colorado? Would you pick the right place? Would you have the right? And here it's a swap, so it's the law of reciprocity, and so I love that.
And
Go ahead.
that's a big piece, like you're saying, that that trade aspect, the relationship that's built there. It's more of a, it just simply is more of a relationship than a transaction, whereas most of your hunting trips are, and a lot of, like, even your all trips, vacation trips, like you're giving them money, and most cases they're going to try to take care of you, but it's not a personal relationship, whereas that's what we're building here, and I think that's super powerful, and good to know.
Yeah, I have a friend whose cousin he's a fishing guide in Montana, and this guy, what impressed me about this guy is he could go in, he could rummage through your refrigerator, and he would grab stuff out of there, put together some meal, and you'd think it was one of the greatest meals you've ever had in your life. I mean, and he's got to be able to do that on the fly out there on these trips, right, or on the wherever they're at. But I always think that's cool. So, if somebody's out there and they're working a 9 to 5 and they're feeling like, man, I got this idea and I really want to implement it, I just don't know how. What would some advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I think where I struggled early on was, one, trying to do everything by myself. I think that's that can be a huge roadblock for you. And then secondly, waiting for perfection. I think, striving for everything to be perfect is another just problem that I have personally. Like, it's, oh, this has got to be perfect before I put it out there. And, in reality, it doesn't. Like, that is another roadblock. I think my advice would be is ask for help, make the ask, find people that you trust, and it's not asking them for money necessarily or anything like that. Asking for advice. Like, hey, can I just pick your brain on this idea? Who do you know that I need to know? Like, some questions like that, just to get the ball rolling. Because generally people want to help you, like they want to provide help if they can. And, so don't be afraid to ask for help there. But then two, just start, like, put it out there, get a little bit of proof of concept. I think we're a 5-year-old technically company, but the first 2 years, really don't even count, because we're so slow trying to make everything perfect before we put it out there. It's like we would be way ahead of where we're at now if I just went ahead and launched something that was small, and to get the proof of concept, to take it to the next level earlier. Like, I would just say, get the ball rolling, whatever that first step is. Just go ahead and start getting some proof of concept. If you can bring some sales in, if you're trying to run a business specifically, like, that's crucial, especially if you're going to need to raise money, or you need to see that ultimately, if you're trying to make a business, got to make some money. So you got to see if people are willing to pay for it. And it doesn't have to be a ton of people right out the gate, but just show that somebody is, and that's going to give you confidence and that proof of success to move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great advice. All right, Slade. So if you could only retain the knowledge that you've gotten from one book, okay? If you could only retain knowledge from one book, what book would that be?
The first one that I guess would come to mind would be Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think that one, it's been a while since I read it. That was kind of early stage of starting the business. So probably over 5 years since I read that book, but it still sticks out to me, like, constantly, about perspectives and how you look at things. And, probably couldn't quote anything off the top of my head right now, but I would say that would be the one that I would recommend if you hadn't read. I'm sure a lot of people have said that, but check it out. It's a very good book, and it's got some good insights in it.
Sometimes it's just reminding people that, like, if you read it and it didn't hit you hard, or you didn't understand something, go read it again, because, that wouldn't be the first book that I've read over and over again to get those concepts and really get them down. But you're exactly right, because I think one of the key messages, the global message of that book, is you have to think differently. Yep. Right. And you had to think differently to start your business. I had to think differently to start my businesses, and everyone has to think differently. And then you have to take action, just like you said. So Slade, what's remind everybody of the website.
Real quick on that last point, wanted to add, I think one thing that I've seen that's really hit me, it stuck from one of our lead investor and one of my mentors, is he's had a lot of success in business. He's got a new business that's crushing it. And we're having a conversation, him and another guy one day, and they were talking about businesses. And the other guy tells him, like, well, this is a great model you got. You know, we could take that to this little town, and what you don't sell in your store, we could sell here. And he's like, you could, and you might make, $100,000 a year at that little store, or you could work just as hard and make $1 million a year. The same amount of effort, just way more money. And it just kind of, you saw the light bulb. It like, you're right. You just need to be a little bit smarter about the strategy there, because the perspective of how you look at things is crucial. So just challenge everybody to think big and in that aspect. But I forgot what the question was now.
Let me comment on that, and then I'll come back to that last. So, Slade, you said something that's really important, is having mentors or having people that have done what you're trying to do. And, I was just on a call with a guy, and he said, he was talking about infinite banking, and he said, hey, I've done research on all these people, and I researched you guys. And he said, there's a lot of posers out there. That was the word he used, posers. And he goes, these guys are talking about it, but they haven't done it very long. And they didn't really, they're talking about it on a much smaller scale than you guys talk about. And so I thought that was funny, but what Tony Robbins always says, and I think it's good advice, is find somebody that has what you want and then find out what they did. And then I think one of the keys is take the best, leave the rest. Nobody's perfect, right? And nobody had a perfect path. So if this person made some mistakes, obviously leave those out and just do the key components and the key things. But, something all the way back to the beginning. And the richest man in Babylon, he says, invest in what you know. So if I were trying to start the business that you just started, and I just told you I'm not very much of an outdoorsman, even though I like it and it's cool, and I love to go like bass fishing and fishing out in the Gulf and stuff. It's not my passion, and I don't know that much about it. So me starting that business, something would probably break down. You had a passion for it, and that's something else that I would give everybody the advice of. If you've got a passion for something, make your business around that. Real estate, you have a passion for providing affordable living, or, whatever it is. Or if you grew up in a mobile home park and you want to own mobile home parks, my adopted dad drove a trash truck. I own a trash company now. So there's little things. I mean, I don't have a huge passion for trash, to be honest, but we really help people and we save them a bunch of money. But like those little things in your life, turn those into big things. And so that's the one thing I would say. Slade, any famous last words? Tell everybody your website too.
Yeah, it's really just, it's tripsfortrade.com. And, we'd love to help you guys swap any trips. If y'all have got anything that you can trade, whether that's a condo, tickets, property, a boat, just take somebody on a trip with you and go on a trip somewhere else. And not only are you going to save a lot of money, but you'll be able to build some relationships that are going to last a long time and have a lot of fun doing it. So check us out, tripsfortrade.com. All our social media is just at Trips for Trade with a number 4. And if you have any questions, just let us know.
Yeah, how about your email, Slade, just in case people want to?
Yes. My personal contact, Slade at tripsfortrade.com. Again, the number 4. And then cell phones available too, 205-499-3858. Happy to be a resource, guys.
Awesome. All right. Breakaway wealth. If you're in the herd, nothing good happens in the herd. So let's break away. Thanks a lot, Slade, for being with me. Until next time.